Yeah, look at the expression. July, he knows he's going to win. He believes in it, and I'm not sure if Best does. I'm not sure if Best really believes he has what it takes, especially after those first 2 games. But I think if it hadn't been for what he achieved against Luxury in the previous round, by now we would have probably counted him out. But we've seen him come back from as bad or worse situation, and anything's possible here. He still might manage to do it. So I only hope all of this is being recorded by Moletrap, by the way, because it would be kind of sad if our commentaries got lost. But I assume it is.
So
it looks like we're starting up here. Countdown going up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
0.
Alright, and we are off for game 3! Best is going to be in white, Jelizer's going to be in brown. This is going to be an epic game. This is going to be crazy. I can feel it. This is going to be crazy. Jelizer's in brown at the top left. Best is in white at the top right. And this is Andromeda. This is the map where you have a mineral only within your base and then a ramp down to a natural as well with a gas there. And I'll see if I can figure out that sign for you in a minute. But Jelizerg is actually scouting the wrong direction this time, so he will not be able to, as he did in last game, use the quick scouting information to change his strategy and own Best right off the bat. So we are hopefully looking for a longer game here.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about. How much a part did luck play in those first 2 games, especially on Troy? But it looks like Best is at least going to have a chance to do something here. He set that probe out, and looks like Best might. And Best is actually scouting in the right direction this time. He's put on his pylon just down south of his ramp. So Best is scouting in the right direction. July this time looks like he's going for a 12 pool. So, or is that a 9 pool? Actually, I haven't seen a second overlord come up for him. So it actually might have been a 9 pool there. Sorry. Yeah, so he's gone for a 9 pool. So it's not going to be as effective. I think it's critical for July. He's so far been lucky in his scouting with his overlords, being able to guess what his opponent's up to. I think it's critical July sends a drone out to get a scout in, just to know what Best is up to. It does look like we are up for a longer macro game style here, and July might be disadvantaging himself by putting that extractor down. Best obviously knows what is coming. He's put the forge down. So Best is going to be in a good position to get that economy up and rolling and get that probably Sair, Reaver, Sair DT build up and put July under a little bit of pressure here. So I think this game we're definitely going to see a more even contest, and it's best for the taking if he has what it takes to take it.
I actually disagree. I think July is going to, with this speed lane opening, he's going to be going for, I have a feeling he could be going for some sort of rush build here with the speed lane opening. He could kill off the scouting probe, and he can go for something like a 2 hatchery Hydralisk or a 4 hatchery Hydralisk, as we've been seeing a lot of Zerg players want to do. And you know, I think it's absolutely critical for Best to be prepared for that, knowing that July has been going for the early cheese a lot of times in a row, and here we're seeing Best putting down both photon cannons, so that is going to put him in a little bit of a disadvantage. He's forced to do that because of the speedling build here, and we are seeing July hunt down that scouting probe, and as long as he can deny scouting, that'll be worth almost an extra expansion for July, or worth so much if he can manage to keep those probes out of his base and keep Best in the dark, because even if he doesn't go for that 2 hatchery Hydralisk build, the meta game will be such that that Best will have to be prepared for it. He'll have to constantly be thinking about it, and he'll have to adjust his build to be prepared for that fast Hydralisk photon cannon break that we've seen a lot of Zerg players, including July and Jadong and a lot of others, Luxury, do so successfully against Protoss players. And now we're seeing July put down that second hatchery. So while I agree you could be right, Klazart, we are possibly going to see a long game. I'm not sure exactly if July is going to allow that to happen. It's on July's hands whether he wants to play a long game or whether he wants to go for a rush right now. And who knows, like you're saying, July is insane. He could be going for a short game here.
Oh, Jelizerg going for a run by. He's trying to break through those probes. The probes are in the way. The probes. Oh, 2 Zerglings get through. 2 Zerglings get through.
Wow.
It's not going to be enough to cause permanent damage to Best. Best's micro and multitasking is good enough that those Zerglings I don't think will do too much to him. He might lose a probe or 2 here and there, but he is going to be bothered by those for a long time. And the main thing I think is that Jelizerg's going to be able to. I mean, Jelizerg's APM and multitasking though is such that he is going to be able to bother Best a lot. But like I said, mainly the point is that he's going to be able to scout everything that Best does. He's going to see exactly what Best does for a long time, and especially since they're speed upgraded, even once he gets his Zealot out, he'll be able to see what Best is doing. And so that's going to be critical. Jelizerg is going to be able to do exactly what he needs to defeat whatever Best is doing, basically. He has come out with the Zerg build of the day. of the day, meaning of these days. We've seen a lot of Zergs. Ooh, one Zergling gets picked off by probes. But he's basically done the quick lings and then going into a more of an econ build afterwards, so he's not too far behind. And so I think he is probably looking at longer game. Yeah, there's the third hatchery at the third base, so we are looking for a longer game after all.
Yeah, I think July did make a little bit of a mistake. I'm not sure. I mean, yes, it's valuable to him to get those Zerglings in. He did commit 6 Zerglings to that. I think he would have been almost better off keeping those 6 Zerglings in reserve to make sure that Best didn't get that scout in, because we can see... Yeah, and we can see that Best has actually got that probe in July's base now, hammering away at one of the drones, July countering it. But July's now got the Overlord in play anyway, so he would have gotten the scout regardless on Best. Obviously, he had it a little bit earlier, and that final Zergling now gets killed off from Best. I'm not sure how effective and how useful that harass from July was, but Best has seen exactly what July's build is. July's got the 3 hatchery build going, and Best, so that means that Best is going to have a chance to get his tech up, and I think this gives Best a chance to get that Reaver Sayer build working for him. He's now putting up the Stargate. It'll be interesting to see whether he puts down a second Stargate or whether he sticks with the 1. And Best now harassing July. He's got a Zealot up there along with a probe. He's managed to sneak that in, but July has got a couple of Zerglings. I'm not sure. He's got a couple more Zerglings coming in, but Best doing a good job of defending, using the probe to block off the 2 reinforcements. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this sort of game pans out, because this is the macro game, and in a sort of way it would be more satisfying for July fans if July actually won this game and proved to everyone that he can win no matter what the circumstances are. I think Best is in a good position though to get his build up and running, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what July does and how he copes with this. I think personally, strategically, tactically, it was a small error from July to commit those Zerglings early on and go up the ramp, because what he's done is he allowed Best to get that probe in and scout his own build. But no higher descent for July. Spire going up now.
Yeah, I think one thing was that he couldn't have known those 3 probes were on the ramp when he rushed those Zerglings in. I think they were out of vision range, and I think those probes were the thing that stopped most of the July's Zerglings from actually surviving and getting in. If he had gotten something like 5 or 6 Zerglings in, it could have been a very different game by now. And now we are seeing the robotics facility going up for Best. He is going to kill off this Overlord, and will the Overlord spot it? Looks like he will spot the robotics facility, so he is going to know that Reaver Sayer is coming into play, and he's gone for Mutalisks, and Scourge I think is going to be absolutely critical for him to be able to micro these Mutalisks around. And of course, what am I saying? July is the master of, he's the inventor almost of Mutalisk, modern Mutalisk micro as we know it. So we'll have to see how good he is against a Corsair Sayer build though. Corsair Sayer build of course ends up giving the Protoss player a lot of Corsairs, because those are necessary to prevent the Scourge from hitting the shuttle. So we're going to see a lot of Corsairs very soon, and especially once Best scouts this Spire. But will July get some Scourge out quick enough? That's another question here. If July can get some Scourge out, I think if he can pick off these early Corsairs, he could set Best back a lot. And Moletrap, do you think that going for a all Mutalisk build or all Spire build would be a good idea here, or do you think switching to Hydros would be a better idea? And we are seeing a Hydros den coming up, so I guess I answered my own question. Well, but what do you think July's response should be?
Well, we are seeing a Hydros den go up, but then again, we also just saw the other day, and again, close your ears for a few seconds if you haven't seen Jaedong versus Much yet, but we did just see the other day, Jaedong went for a quick Spire, and he got a Hydros den.
One of the stairs just died.
Yeah, one of the Sayers did die, and that is important for July Zerg to keep those Corsair count down, because if he builds up 5 or 6 Corsairs, he'll be able to defeat any amount of Scourges and well, not any, but he'll be able to defeat a lot of Scourges and Mutalisks. He'll have that air superiority. I'm curious to see what all these eggs are, if they are going to be more air units or what they're going to be. But it is possible to do a fake, basically, is what my point was, though, to get that Hydros den so that your opponent can scout it and then go for the Mutas anyways. But yeah, I think this is the proper move for Besto to go for this air build, the Sayer Reaver, try to take air superiority. We have seen July Zerg take air superiority in the past. He's very, very good at doing that, getting that early Spire and doing so. But I think Best is pretty good at it too. I think in the long run, Best already has 3 Corsairs out. He's getting his 4th. Oh! 1 Scourge landing on his 3rd Corsair. That would have been critical if he'd lost that Corsair. But he does have 3. He's going to get the 4th up in a minute. Once he gets 5, I think Best will have the air superiority secured. And then it'll be up to July Zerg to either make an early ground push with Hydros and Zerglings, or to make it a longer game.
Yeah, I think July's been quite smart here. One of the complaints we had about Jaedong versus Bisu is that Jaedong didn't expand enough and didn't macro enough and tried to win the game too early. I don't think July is going to make that mistake. We've seen him put down an expansion at the 9 o'clock position. I think that expansion might be the one thing that could decide the game in July's favor if he does end up winning. He knows that it takes a little bit of time to get that Reaver Sair build up and running, and the Zerg really only has 2 options to beat it. Either he has to get a massive macro and economy going and really be everywhere on the map by the time the Protoss really gets the Zerg the Reaver the Reaver Corsair build going, and now the Corsair is going raiding. July again managing to pick off one of the Corsairs. Insane control by July. Actually managed to kill one of the Corsairs. Shuttle up. July coming in, and that shuttle is moving. I'm not sure what's in that shuttle. I think it might be a probe, but the shuttle. But July's got a couple of scourges here. If he can catch that shuttle, it's away from the Corsairs, and looks like he is taking the island expansion at the 12 o'clock expansion. But July has seen that he had a couple of shuttles. He had a couple of scourges waiting, but unfortunately he wasn't able to intercept that shuttle in time. Shuttle obviously not speed upgrade yet, but July knows that it takes a Protoss a little bit of time to get that Corsair Reaver build up and running, and in that time he needs to establish himself. It looks like he's gone for another expansion down at the 5 o'clock position. It's going to be down to see whether July bringing loads of scourges, killed off another 3 Corsairs. Brilliance by July. He's really doing everything in his power and playing the way a Zerg should play against Protoss, completely fearlessly. Another Sair getting picked off.
I think Best is reacting quite well, though, by going for that very early expand. He knows that July is not going to have any substantial number of Mutalisks anytime soon because of the Corsairs, and of course he won't have drop upgrade anytime soon. So taking that 12 o'clock base, even though it's rather cavalier, it is in between their 2 bases, I think is a very smart idea. But look at this, July already has speed upgrade for his Overlords, so we could be seeing an early drop of some sort. This could be really interesting. In fact, I think the observers are trying to show us that that there's relatively fast Overlord speed, and we're seeing July commit with so many Scourge here. This is absolutely interesting. Usually what happens is Zerg gives up on trying to take air superiority, and oh, look at this, July is going to go for a drop, I think. Those Overlords, I believe, are full of just Hydralisks, but the Hydralisks are going to be quite effective against those cannons that are yet to morph in. I don't know if July knows how many there are there, and it looks like July actually having seen the cannons decides to back off, but I think it's interesting that July's gone for so many Scourge. I think a lot of times the Zerg players would choose to go for something like Lurkers with their gas, but July is going to need to be, you need to have impeccable Scourge control to be able to make it worth it. It looks like July, see, a little bit lacking on his, actually no, I think that's at the 9 o'clock, or is that a new expansion at the 7 o'clock? I'm not sure exactly. I would be a little surprised if it was the 9 o'clock because there's so few drones there. I do think, though, that so far in this game it's quite even, but I'd even give Best a little bit of an advantage right now because July has not been able to do any damage early on, and he's allowed now for Best to get the necessary tech, to get the powerful Reaver Sair build, and now it's going to be in Best's ball game, I guess, or in his court, I suppose, to see what he can do against July.
And now Best coming up here for a little bit of an attack here, trying to take out one of Julizerg's bases. Julizerg is he's trying to kind of keep Best back in his base with these Scourges. At the same time, he is actually trying to do a lot of expansion as well. He's managed to get a lot of drones out, but he's not defending this base very well. It looks like he may lose this 9 o'clock base. It looks like Best has also sent some forces down to the bottom left at the 7 o'clock base that Julizerg is setting up. This is actually pretty bad for Julizerg. Oh, Shuttle almost getting hit by that Scourge, but manages to get away. This is looking very bad for Julizerg. I think finally he's bringing his army into play, but he is not doing it to protect his expansions at the moment. I can't tell if he actually... Okay, he did somehow manage to... Okay, he is protecting this 9 o'clock expansion, but it looks like Julizerg is actually setting up for a bit of an attack. He's sending a bunch of Hydralisks, a few Overlords, so we may see that drop actually that Cholera was mentioning after all. He may go and try and drop the southern end of Best's base right now. Best has secured that 12 o'clock base though, so even though Julizerg has gone and got 2 bases, it's really, it's pretty even macro-wise, and Best might even be considered to be ahead because I think he's probably got more probes at his bases than Julizerg has drones, especially at his new expansions. I'm really curious to see how things are going to go here. Julizerg seems to be building up for an attack. I think an attack on the front would be fatal because Best already does have 3 or 4 Reavers out. So a drop would probably be the best way to go. And it is the most likely thing, I think, given the fact that he's got those Overlords grouped up over there.
Yeah, and looks like July is now finally gearing up for that drop, but he's going to be in trouble because if Best counters here in his main, I don't think July has much to defend it, although July does have his rally point there. Best now coming in with the Reavers and the Shuttles. July is being very clever. He's got masses of Scourges there, and July now going for the drop. He's got Scourges there that are protected by Hydralisk, and now it looks like July's going to drop while Best's forces are away, and Best has got nothing to defend this here, and July's going to be dropping right on top of Best's gateways and at Best's mineral only expo, and at the very least Best is going to lose the Nexus here. Best now coming back, trying to intercept those, trying to do some sort of counter, try and bring his units in. July tried to stop it with the Scourges, but Best's micro was superior on the occasion. July not able to take the Nexus down. Best drops the Reavers into play, and now July is also going to lose all those Overlords that he made in that drop. So ineffectual attack by July. July protecting his Overlords, clever by July. He kept about 4 Hydralisks back, and that was enough for him to protect his Overlords and get them out of the way. But now that Best has got his Reaver Sayer build going, it's going to be incredibly difficult for July to do anything. July now producing Mutalisks. Best obviously has the air superiority. He might be hoping to make a couple of Devourers there. He's got a lot of Mutalisks there. I don't think he's going to be able to do much against Best now. Really, once a Protoss player gets that build going with that many Reavers, it's downright impossible to stop, and looks like it's finally Best's turn to attack. July has managed to ward Best off from coming into his base so far by cleverly using Hydralisk and Scourge's combined defense, and that is a very good defense, I have to say, but I don't understand why Best hasn't gone for one of July's other expansions and tried to limit in that way. And really, those expansions are the only thing keeping July abreast in this game right now. Looks like Best is going to try and change his directional strategy and come in and commit himself to an attack here. This is going to be a major battle. Mutalisks and Scourges coming in for July, and July is wiping out Best's air force. Most of Best's air force getting taken out by July. Pure stroke of genius. Best didn't anticipate that at all. He's only down to about 5 Corsairs, and has July, with a moment of pure genius, swung this back in his favor.
Wow, that was absolutely amazing. That's something we usually see in Zerg versus Zerg, the combination of Mutalisk Scourge there. But he decided to, just absolutely brilliant. This is how you would fight Mutalisks, I feel. You would go and try to attack them and prevent them from being able to micro against your Scourge, and that's exactly what July did. And we're seeing a greater spire from July, so we could be seeing those Devourers. In fact, we are going to see Devourers, and this is what I love about watching some of the old greater players. We don't see what we quote-unquote know as the conventional Zerg builds or the conventional builds. We do see different kinds of builds, and by the way, I believe that is a fleet beacon for Best, and we could be seeing some disruption. I think he was trying to do that, but now we could be seeing, well, we probably won't see carriers anytime soon, but who knows. Against a lot of Devourers, we probably are going to need to see more ground troops from Best, because Corsairs are not going to cut it by themselves. He's going to need some Archons, he's going to need some Dragoons on the ground to be able to deal with a large Devourer fleet that July is probably going for with the Mutalisks, and I just love seeing these different tech builds, and I think that this is the difference between a player like July and a player like Luxury, who I'd call a modern sort of macro-style Zerg player, that he wouldn't be going for Devourers against Corsair Reaver, he just wouldn't think about doing it, whereas July is not just thinking about doing it, but he is going to go for Devourers, and this is absolutely amazing.
This is pretty crazy. Best at least does have a lot of Dragoons on the ground. It looks like he's got Templar as well, and I think that's going to be key in upcoming battles. Psystorm is going to be definitely key here. It looks like he's still harassing July's troops. You know, I don't think that was quite as big of a blow for Best as it kind of looked like. July's swooping in on him, but he got all of his shuttles out. He didn't lose any Reavers or shuttles. He only lost, I think, maybe 3, 4, 5 Corsairs, and now July's losing some of his Mutalisks here. Some of his Mutalisks are morphing. Oh, okay, I was going to say they're morphing out in the field, but he is bringing his other army over to protect them just in case. They probably are going to be Devourers, and he's going to be able to deal with any air there. But like I said, Best has now transferred over to a more ground-based build. He's got Dragoons and Zealots and what have you, so I think he's going to be well prepared to deal with whatever July does throw at him. But he didn't lose that many Corsairs. He still had most of his Corsairs going out. And they're Guardians! July saw that there were ground forces going on, and he has switched to Guardians! Oh my gosh, the Reavers are going to do nothing against the Guardians, obviously. And his Corsairs are too low. The Psystorm going off on a lot of those Guardians, killing them up. I think those Psystorms just saved Best. I think those are the only things that just kept him in this game. Otherwise, he would have just been completely slaughtered. But he is getting pushed back here into his base. I don't think this is the killing blow, but this is not looking good for Best in the long run.
Best is in huge trouble. I don't know about killing blow or not, but Best obviously surrendered his air superiority when July took out all those Corsairs. Best switched to ground, and July anticipated that and has got masses and masses of Guardians, and Best doesn't have enough of a force to counter him. Best now trying to get the counterattack, and July close to Best's resupply line, but July's got Lurkers to fall back to, along with obviously those Guardians that he's trying to keep alive. I think the key here for me is that even though Best went for a Reaver Sayer build, he did not kill a single hatchery of July's with that build, and that is what has really made this game such a strong contest. because really Protoss should be whittling down Zerg hatcheries. Best has now managed to get the expansion up at the 3 o'clock position as well, but July has now secured himself to the expansion as well as the natural expo at the 7 o'clock position, as well as the 9 o'clock expansion. So in terms of economy, July would probably consider to be slightly ahead. Though he's now obviously used his ace, that he's revealed his ace by revealing that Guardian, and July now looks like he's going to go for a major drop. This is going to be disastrous for July. This might be GG right here. July might be throwing the game away because Best has got Corsairs waiting with those photon cannons, and if he gets intercepted here, that's going to be it for July. Best is going to be able to counterpunch him. July losing, and disruption web going off. July trying to drop. He's committed now. There's nothing he can do, and I don't know if he's going to have enough to actually take this because Best is going to come in with his shuttles and drop those Reavers, and so July, even though he's managed to kill most of the photon cannons, now trying to micro against the Reavers. One of the Reavers got taken down. July still has a decent number of Hydralisks remaining. Best is trying to micro his Reavers out, using the disruption webs as well. He's now microed the Reaver out of range of the Hydralisk. And I have to say, this is great micro by both players, especially by July. He managed to somehow keep his Hydralisk alive. Obviously, Best didn't have a lot of Reavers in play, and now Best trying to counter on the ground against July's forces, but July's got Guardians waiting there at the 9 o'clock expansion. Best managing to snuff out July's attack with the combination of his probes there at the 12 o'clock base. So that base just survives, and it wasn't as disastrous as I thought it would be for July, because July did do a decent amount of damage to Best, but now it's time for Best to counter, and will July have enough to cope?
I mean, I think one of the most important factors of this game is that July has had 5 gas up for about 10, 12, 20, maybe 10 minutes already, and this is what's allowed him to go for so many forces. I was absolutely amazed when I saw Guardians, because I thought he wouldn't have the gas for it with all the Lurkers and Hydros he had, but he has the gas, and that's just so hard to stop. I think a 5 gas Zerg is almost as powerful or more powerful than 5 gas for Protoss. I could be wrong there, but I do think that July is absolutely using what resources he has absolutely well here. He's not just going for a small variety of troops, as we often would see against for Zerg players. We'd see something like Ultra Zergling Defiler in the late game. He's going for this mixed group, and here we're seeing a huge attack from July. Absolutely great, and we're seeing these storm. Oh man, but the storm just eating up some forces there in the front. Great storms. Oh, July needs to micro those Hydros away. So many Hydros corpses everywhere, just littering the battlefield. But July has managed to take this battle somehow. His absolute crazy production advantage here, and I just think Best has not practiced against this. I just don't. I guess I call this some kind of modified Sauron God of War build here that July has invented. Going for. Yes, it's just the God of War build. But here comes finally the first harass from Best of the game so far, and he's dropping Dark Templar into the backfield. Interesting. I think that's actually quite a smart strategy. But July is still on the offensive on the right side. I think this is going to peter out. But my point was that July has gone for a weird combination of Lurker, Zergling, Hydralisk, and now Ultralisks and Guardians. I mean, just an absolute non-standard build, and it's turned out to be absolutely brilliant so far.
This has been absolutely crazy, and this is ridiculous. The Ultralisk Cavern actually goes down. He got a few Ultras out, and he's going to lose his spawning pool as well. Those 3 or 4 DTs absolutely hero Dark Templar, possibly saving the game for Best. I don't think that Best is actually in that bad of a position in the long run. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god, those few seconds that he had an Ultralisk Cavern up, he built Ultralisks with all of his damn larvae, it seems. But what I was going to say is Best is not quite as bad off as it seems to be, even though I have just wet myself in my car by seeing those Ultralisks at the same time. But Best does have half the map. He's got almost as many bases as Jelizerg does. So you can't quite cut him out. I mean, assuming he has enough gateways around to really deal with this, then he may actually be able to hold... Oh, Jesus. Oh my god, there's so many Ultralisks out right now. I have no idea what Jelizerg is going to do. He's got lots of Storms now, but Storms aren't going to do very much good against these Ultralisks. Here comes the battle, ladies and gentlemen. There are Reavers there, and Best's army is absolutely tiny, ridiculously tiny compared to this huge mass of Ultralisks coming in to defeat it right now. I don't think that's Best's entire army, but this battle is going to be definitely lost by Best, and if he loses a couple bases off of this, then it will be GG in the long run.
Yeah, I think the key is I'm not sure if July has actually scouted that expansion that Best has set up at 5 o'clock, which was the National Expo, because he had an opportunity to attack it earlier. He didn't. Now he's definitely found it. He's going for the result. He's having mopped up Best's forces. Best does have photon cannons. He's trying to use Zealots as well as dropping Reavers behind those cannons to try and get in. But July is now in. That Reaver drop comes in too late. He's got a couple of Archons. But this is going to be GG right here because Best's economy is going to be completely completely devastated by this attack from July, and despite the Reaver, July had enough in the tank. July obviously, knowing as his Ultralisk Cavern was going to go down, in a split second produced all these Ultralisks. And I have to say, I don't think we could have wished for a better game of StarCraft in the final, with every single unit almost available to the players being used. You can see how limited Best's unit production is now. He's really limited, and he's lost his 2 expansions, and I think this might be the point where Best now cannot come back in this game from. And I just don't know what to say. I'm utterly speechless. But I think anyone who was talking about Best's superior micro, I think they should all be swallowing their words right now. Best trying to effect some sort of a counterattack at July. He's got Observer, he's got DT, he's got a well-rounded force, taking out the Lurker in the way. July, he's trying to get July to basically pull his forces back, hoping that he can do some damage and take out July's tech. July has got those Scourges this time, and Best has no anti-air, and if those shuttles get taken out, this is going to be hurt Best, because shuttles are gone, so he can no longer use the Reavers. July focusing in on the Reavers. Best with storms all over the place. He just doesn't have the weight of numbers to really keep this up. By now, July's probably got his spawning pool and Ultralisk Cavern back up, and Best's few attacks seems to have failed. July's only got a couple of Ultras remaining, but by the time Best has got reinforcements coming, he's got about 8 Zealots, but by the time even those speed upgrade Zealots arrive, July's going to have reinforcements popping as well. DT critically alive for Best. Best's reinforcements arrive. July is bringing back his Ultralist, having finished off that expansion at the 5 o'clock position, and really, this is going to be GG right here. I think this is a little bit futile for Best. Unfortunately for him, that Archon doesn't have the Storm energy is just now coming up, but the Ultralist will come in to mop up the rest, and this has got to be GG. And I'm going to ask all of those people who talked about July's lack of micro to please now put their hands up and pull their pants down.
Yeah,
lack of macro, rather.
Macro, I think they were talking about. Yeah, I'm definitely swallowing.
Yeah,
I'm choking on my
absolutely.
words right now. And I just have to say, when Zerg manages to defeat Corsair Reaver, we see some of the most awesome games in the history of StarCraft. Just thinking about the recent GG Play versus Stork, I mean, going back to Savior versus Naura, all those games happened because Zerg was forced to deal with Corsair Reaver, and they all turned out to be absolutely epic Zerg versus Protons games, because once, basically Zerg has to go for non-standard units to deal with it, and we're seeing July just play absolutely brilliantly, managing to hold on the gas, but I do have to blame Best partially for this defeat here, or this apparent defeat. You know, he's not out of the game yet, but the fact that he didn't go for that harassment when until he had about 3 shuttles full of Reavers, he didn't go for a single drop anywhere, and that was just absolutely astounding. All he did was use the Reavers for defense, and when you have Corsair Reaver, you must use it to attack the Zerg player. You just can't let them build up like that and hold 5 gas, as July had for about 10 minutes without any interruption. And this is why July has something like 24 Ultralisk, probably because when he went to Hive, he had something like 3,400 gas in the tank still, and that's why he had the Guardians, why he had the Lurkers. It's just absolutely been crazy, and I think this is partially Best's defeat because of that, but I absolutely agree with Klazart. July has shown himself more than capable of dealing with the late game, and this is, I think, the reason why many of us doubted July is because we were so used to seeing the old greats come back for a short period and then fail again. You know, we see Nada sometimes come back, we see Naura sometimes making small little comebacks, but every time they lead us to disappointment in the end, and when we see, you know, that they lose in some later stage, but this time we might not see July be disappointed. In fact, July might not disappoint us. And yeah, let me let Moletrap finish this off.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I just yeah. Speaking of the end, I think this might be the end right here. Actually, it's not as big of a drop as I anticipated. There's some Ultralists in there, but I think that and I wouldn't even put it past July to have even predicted the fact that. Well, I mean, we all thought that he was going to go Sair Reaver, so July probably thought it as well, and that's maybe why he invested so much money in those early Scourges, because he was able to stop all of that early harass just by having a ton of Scourges in the air very, very early on, and so Best, like you said, he wasn't able to really move out until he had a lot of units. I mean, we saw him lose Corsairs early, and he couldn't move out because he didn't have enough Corsairs to deal with all those Scourges very early on, and even forcing him back to his base with Mutalisks pretty early on as well. So, oh my god, that is so beautiful, so gorgeous to see all of these Ultralisks running around. And this may be the final battle here. There's Zerg, actually a ton of storms going off. All the Zerglings completely nullified immediately in that battle by a lot of storm, but just so many storms killing the Ultralisks as well. Looks like Best is actually going to hold that off. He does manage to hold it off, but I think he's losing those bases in the bottom right, as Klazart said. I think that was it for him. He's not going to have that production anymore. He basically has 1 or 2 bases mining right now, whereas Jolizark has put up 6 o'clock. He's put up, oh my gosh, now he's expanding to the middle. But he's put up 6 o'clock. He's put up, I think, 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock as well. So he's got 3 or 4 bases mining compared to Best's down to 1, and it's almost mined out. It looks like the 12 o'clock is almost mined out. So I think only 3 o'clock is all he has mining. It's getting close as well. It's only a matter of time, I believe.
Yeah, obviously this is the finals, and this is obviously a must-win match, or was a must-win match for Best. I think he's probably gone now, unless he can pull off something miraculous. He's trying his best. It hasn't been enough, unfortunately. I think on any other map he would have been finished long ago. It's just because Andromeda is so strong in terms of its defensive quotient. It's much harder to kill. It's much harder to actually breach someone's base. July just almost willing to commit 12 Scourges to a single Reaver, to a single shuttle, but what he was able to do was prevent Best from using the Reaver to support his ground units. And yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to breach a base on this map, and that's what's really kept Best in this game for as long as he has, because July, to my opinion, has had numerous points in the game where he had overwhelming weight of numbers, or where he had superiority in terms of his forces on the ground. July now taking the 5 o'clock expansion as well, making sure, not getting complacent. I don't think we're going to see him be complacent against Best, as we saw probably a little bit against Backle. I think coming back to the point that Cholera and Moletrap were making about the issue of Best doing the early harass. I was talking about that earlier, about how Best hadn't attacked July's hatcheries, but I think I'm not sure how much of it is in terms of percentage-wise, and Best looks like he's trying to commit himself to another attack. July, with tons of Scourges, manages to catch the shuttle, so the shuttle goes down for Best, and he's just crying. He's actually physically crying. He's going to get pincered here, and his Zealot and his ground and Swarm up as well. As if we hadn't seen, that was, I think, the only thing that we haven't seen from Zerg in this game is probably Devourers and Plague. I think we've seen or a Nidus Canal. I think we've seen pretty much everything else, but Best's remaining force is going to be mopped up here, and then probably he will GG, I think, after this battle. But yeah, I think from the point of view of what you guys were saying, I'm not sure where the actual fault lies. And GG! July is the holder of the Golden Mouse. He is the second person to claim that honor after Nada. And as I said before, all ye doubters be banished to Hellfire for all eternity, because July has reigned supreme. Somebody give the man a hamburger, please. Somebody give the man a big, massive hamburger, because he must have lost at least 20 kilograms in that game alone. But before I continue to exult, and he's not waiting for anyone to give it to him. He's just going to run down and grab it. It's his. It's mine. Thank you very much. See y'all later. Thanks for coming.
He has waited 3 years for that thing,
etc.
He has waited 3 years for that.
I don't think there's any player. I don't think there's any player in StarCraft who deserves this more than July. But before we exult in this, I do want to get back to this thing that we were talking about the Reaver Serre issue. And I'm not sure how much of it was the fact that Best didn't commit himself to the attack and was a little bit reluctant, and how much of it was July's build, where he had the Scourges in place and the Hydralisks in place. I mean, I don't know if July had enough in terms of defense to stop Best, if Best had gone for some of the other, for either the 9 o'clock expansion or the 7 o'clock expansion. For whatever reason, Best only seemed to be trying to go for July's main with his Reaver Serres, and maybe he didn't scout, maybe he wasn't aware, or maybe he thought that he couldn't leave the 12 o'clock expansion undefended. He needed to keep his forces near there. I'm not sure. I mean, what is the reason why Best didn't go for the other exposed expansions of July?
I personally think we should revel in this moment for a minute. Because honestly, look at Best. He's crying. He is so messed up right now. I'm not even sure if he's crying because he's got so much sweat all over him right now from trying so hard.
Crying.
And oh man, hitting himself in the head. He is so disappointed in himself right now. Man, I would not be surprised if it takes a couple weeks to play StarCraft again, because Jesus, he looks so defeated right there. He is so sad. But Jolizark, I mean, like I said, he's waited 3 years. He got his OSLs in 04 and 05, I believe. I don't think he even got an OSL in 06. He only got the World Cyber Games